Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We are here to talk about celebrating Employment First 10-year anniversary. And with this group here, it's our multi-agency planning group from Lucas County, either current members or past members. This was a group that was started over 5 years ago and just has kind of evolved as time has passed through a pandemic as well, and continues to do some great work together. I'm Sarra Burnham. I am from the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities. Jeff, do you mind introducing yourself?
Not at all. My name is Jeff Renner, and I am a teacher in the job training program at Toledo Public Schools.
Kelly, do you mind introducing yourself?
No, my name is Kelly Elton, and I'm a Community Inclusion Coordinator at the Lucas County Board of DD, overseeing employment navigators, and I'm also the chair of the Lucas County MAP.
Thank you. And Jeannette?
Hi, I'm Jeannette Bostelman. I am a supervisor in the Toledo office for Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities.
Thank you. And Jeff, do you mind just sharing how did, in Lucas County, our multi-agency planning group get started?
Sure. Well, like you mentioned, we have been doing this for 5 years now. It doesn't seem like 5 years, but it's been 5 years. And I think the story actually goes back a few years earlier than that, when O'Calley, Chris Fisher and Sue Beck from O'Calley did some professional development geared around the concept of multi-agency planning. And I needed some contact hours for license renewal. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll give that a go. And I showed up, and I kind of enjoyed it. It was nice sitting down with other professionals and just talking about what we do and how we can connect. And so 7 years ago, we did that. And then as luck would have it, at the end of that year, an ODE grant came open. And so I wrote a grant geared around multi-agency planning for Toledo Public Schools. And so I took what we learned and brought everyone in, and we taught 30 teachers at TPS about the concept of multi-agency planning and connecting. And we tried to focus on teachers that weren't necessarily sending kids to our program, because our kids were getting those connections, but a lot of the kids in the district weren't. And so that was kind of our focus, was reaching out to them. And so we spent a summer teaching all these teachers about how to connect, and that went really well. And then the following year, this new opportunity came open to do multi-agency planning on the local county level. And so Kelly Shuck reached out, and that's how we got started. And we've been meeting almost monthly ever since.
Yes, thank you. And I think at that time that Kelly Shuck was an employee of Lucas County Board of DD. She was overseeing some employment initiatives. And I had actually just started in a role as service and support coordinator, supporting transition age youth. And it was really a time we were talking about taking how we supported transition age youth to a different level. And it was so helpful to collaborate at the beginning, even of my journey, because I think what we really thought at the beginning was that we really did understand what each agency did. And just by having some simple conversations, which really the first 3 organizations, it was OOD, and it was the county board, and just this, some of the schools, we knew pieces of it, but not everything. And just letting people connect and ask questions and clarify what our roles were and how to just talk together a little bit better to support that student. It was really powerful. And I don't think I realized how powerful it was till we started to see that just affect our everyday conversations too. And I think that's where, Jeff, we spent a lot of time at the beginning, really just talking about what did each other do and really kind of getting to know each other a little bit better. So thank you. I know, Kelly, you are now the Lucas County MAP team lead currently. Do you mind sharing a little bit about how the team has grown over the years to where it's at right now?
We've been able to build collaboration and partnerships with not just the schools, but other local agencies, some disability-specific nonprofits, some community centers. And what we're able to provide is a referral and linkage to supports needed for those transition age youth. And it has just really begun to evolve and expanded past TPS in a manner in which we've been at transition fairs having other transition teachers sign up or job coaches sign up. And if they, although they might not be able to always attend the meeting, they are receiving the information through meeting notes. And we are just receiving praises back because there is organizations that they never knew existed, and they're able to refer and link their youth. So it's been super positive for us.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Just to throw a kudos out to you, I know some recent new members. We've had other community members that have their own tech programs, job training programs. Toledo Public has been an amazing partner. We've had some ongoing participation from Lucas County Children's Services, just to participate in some of our conversations, as well as the mobility manager that's from our area, and a lot of just community members. So that's just been wonderful. We have the Site Center, the Ability Center. So kudos to all of us, because it was a simple conversation, and I think it's really helped us make more connections and just make sure other agencies know that they can connect and have those conversations on behalf of students. Um, just to kind of go through, I know one of the initial reservations for some agencies or schools is you're so busy. You're so busy, you have your own workload. And sometimes I know it's hard to, like, am I going to really take this on top of everything else I have to do? Just to kind of maybe throw it out to you, Jeff, to start. Can you share a little bit about how taking the time to participate in MAP has just helped you do your everyday work on behalf of students?
Yes, and again, I think you need to look at the history of how things have grown and where we came from. The year before, I'm ashamed to say this and not ashamed to say it at the same time. The year before we started our initial conversations with multi-agency planning, I don't think I made a single OOD referral because it was just too frustrating. And since then, now, I mean, and I think it reflects a culture change. We're all friends. We talk. We have each other's phone numbers. It's easier to connect. And so it's night and day compared to where we were before we started the conversations with multi-agency planning.
Thank you so much. Jeannette, from an OOD perspective, have you found the same thing?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And I would say not just with our schools, not just specific with TPS, but every agency. I think that you think you know, and you find out, that you don't have a clue. You think, oh, well, Lucas County Board of DD doesn't do that. They don't have that service, or TPS, they can't provide that to their students. And then, and you just assume, as you're going, you sort of live in your bubble, your agency bubble prior to a group like the Multi-Agency Planning Committee, and you rely on this piece of information you picked up on an outreach somewhere along the way, or the rumor mill, or this counselor was connected with this school or this agency, and you're only getting their experience as part of that conversation. And it's amazing to me how much more our world as an agency providers has opened up. And then I think about the fact that because our world has gotten so much bigger, think about how the world of the people we've served has got so much bigger. They have access now to so many more things that they didn't have access to before, because we all take the time to pay attention and listen to what another agency says as part of their reporting during these multi-agency, their changes, their new services, their plans for what's coming up. This service is going away. We're adding this service. This is now something we can do. We got this grant. We got this. Now we're adding these staff. I mean, and to bring that back and share that within our agency, it doesn't, we don't live in that bubble anymore where we feel like, well, we're all alone out here and our world is only vocational and it's this big. And so, this is where our world stops. that's where our services stop, but our world is now so much bigger, and we can project that onto the people that we serve. And I think that that communication piece has just been made wide open by this.
Thank you so much. Kelly, I remember when conversations were, that you were in school and then after you graduated, people would make a referral to the county board to get connected to a service and support specialist. Do you mind talking a little bit about how having that connection with the county board and that team has made a difference in helping, individuals with disabilities prepare for life after high school?
Absolutely. And I would just agree that we are no longer operating in silos, and we are eliminating that cliff. That cliff that used to be there upon graduation is eliminated, and it comes with the early referrals. Not only have we been able to take some of the things from MAPS to work with our transition age youth, but I've been able to share some of them with our children's SSAs. So they can start that transition planning when they're still children prior to entering that age 14. So by this group coming together, we're kind of creating that holistic wraparound support that is truly based upon each youth's wants, needs, and desires. And it's no longer just one standard of practice. Oh, here's the rubber stamp for this. Here's, yep, you're graduating. It's really through assessments and supports to the youth and creating that desired adult outcome that they're seeking that is a smooth transition.
Yes, thank you so much. And having these multi-agency teams really be able to use this high school experience as to determine like what is meaningful, what is a meaningful day for you, what is meaningful employment versus just going to another program. And I'm excited how we've been able to move those conversations forward, even despite the many challenges. One of the things I just want to ask is, because I know that this was a question other counties have asked, is how did you guys stay together as a group during the pandemic? Kelly, do you mind maybe starting us off with that, and then I can jump in with that as well, because I know we kind of worked together with that as well.
Yes. Well, and I give kudos to you for starting it through the pandemic. We had meetings on Zoom and we connected, but more importantly, we communicated. So when our students were facing the struggles of not being in school, we were able to relay that and figure out the supports that we could put into place, whether they were getting pre-ets by Zoom or we were doing outreach to another nonprofit that maybe had some disability specific workshops or skill development things. We were working with the schools to kind of help collaborate and partner while the students were at home. And we did that through the Zoom meetings. And honestly, it was probably a lot of offhanded phone calls outside of those Zoom MAPS meetings that really made the difference. And that's because everyone had been connected and working together already.
Each of us, coming from different systems, we truly wanted to know how each other was doing. And I know whether they were connected through the school or OOD, that sometimes we were finding they were maybe connected with one contact, but the other members of the team were wondering how that person was doing. And so I just wanted to kind of throw a kudos out that I know, Jeff, you had teachers that were stopping by homes, dropping kits off, drop materials off, sometimes just checking out if people were okay. Jeannette, you had OOD workers that I know that you have a set of policies, but they were just reaching out, like, how is the student doing? That everybody really, because we were able to connect during a really difficult, challenging time, we were able to come together and do our best with making connections with the students and the families, and offering assistance where and when we could. Any examples or just anything else you guys want to add with that?
One unique program that the Children's Employment Navigators were able to kind of support through the pandemic, and it kind of just took off, but it was really because they were keeping in touch with teachers and families and other agencies that support youth, and they found a need for the students to receive some sort of opportunity to receive rewards or a payment for completing chores at the home. So we weren't stopping the job training process just because they weren't in school or at places. So some of the families did reach out and were able to receive gift cards that they then provided to their youth once upon completing chores or other tasks within the household, to kind of keep that perspective going. And honestly, that was brought about because of the collaboration, because everyone talking about how can we best meet some family needs. So that was one thing that the Lucas County Board of DD staff was able to support, but I don't know we would have known about those specific needs had they conversations not been ongoing.
I think I remember one of those examples, and one of the really cool things was that after that parent, I think that parent said, "Wow, I would never realized my son was so motivated to do some chores for like a $5 gift card." But then they were able to still meet virtually. And actually, it was their OOD worker was able to move that conversation forward and even address maybe where the family before had said, "I don't think they're ever going to want to work." It was able to shed some new light on the situation. And it's like, this is really making my son happy, and the opportunity to earn money and have some independence. And that was a really cool example, something that happened during a challenging time, but being able to guide that into future planning for him. Jeff, I'll start with you. And just if anybody do you have like a specific student in mind or an example of where there's been a time where that multi-agency planning, you've seen that particularly benefit that student in their situation?
Yes, I'll talk about that on a global level, and then I'll give you some individual examples. When we talked about the grant we wrote earlier in getting teachers connected, or getting teachers information on how to make the connections, I usually tell them that you are starting a conversation and not applying for services. Because I want them to be a part of it. It's not an application, here you go, and walk away from it. It's let's start a conversation about OOD and how can you help? Because teacher, you've got really valuable information that the counselor can use. And so on a global scale, I think those relationships are really formed that way. And then the other thing is, one of the things that I think has been a really positive thing that has come out of the pandemic is we've been able to do business in a way that we were never able to do business before. I just today had a face-to-face conversation, just like we're doing right here, over the computer with a counselor and a student. The counselor needed some information off from the student and from the mother to move the ball forward. And in the past, it would have taken an hour-long meeting face-to-face, and instead I was able to take my laptop to the kid's classroom. We could sit down with the mom, the student, the counselor, and get everything handled in just a few minutes. And so things like that that's just invaluable. It saved the counselor a lot of time. We got all the information they want. And now the kid's case is going to be able to move forward. And so everything is good. So I think there are hordes of examples like that where things are just changing so rapidly, and it's not all bad. So.
Thank you so much. Jeannette, do you have an example in mind?
Well, unfortunately, I don't work directly with students anymore. I'm blessed to be a supervisor of 5 counselors that work very, very directly with individuals and their families. But I think, again, I have more of that global perspective, and I think that one of the things that I find so interesting as when, I've been doing VR for over 20 years, and it's never been so amazing and open. And I think that is something I've just really, it's been an adjustment. Counselors over the years have kind of come to like, well, this is my caseload and this is my person and this is their plan, and I'm going to move this forward. And now there's just this whole kind of team that wraps around them. And where at first you get a little uncomfortable with that, especially if you are very much used to being sort of in control of the situation. After you've done it more and more and more, I start to see these counselors sort of relax a little bit more and realize, what, I don't have to be the only one at the table, putting forward options or having difficult conversations when those need to happen. I have all these other amazing, SSAs and teachers and transition coordinators sitting at the table with me. And, I see a lot more collaboration happening before those meetings, conversations happening. How are we going to handle this as a team? How are we going to make sure this student gets what they need? How, hey, we want to provide this summer youth experience, but transportation is going to be an issue. What can you do? Or should we pull in, our friends from TARPS or the mobility manager, or how do we make this happen? And the conversation is more about how do we say yes more? And I think that to me is an amazing transition. And I see it not just the growth in us as an agency, but other agencies as well. How do we say yes more? How do we say, we may not be able to do this, but what can we do? And I think that as a supervisor, watching that growth, not just within my agency, but within individual counselors, has been an amazing experience for me. And I feel like overall it just benefits these students. They're just coming out of high school so much more prepared for what that world of work looks like and what is that next step going to be, whatever that is for them.
Thank you so much. And yes, Kelly, I just wanted to see if you had an example in mind of just a time you saw that team come together and how that multi-agency collaboration affected that individual.
We most recently had an experience, and although they're not a part of our maps yet, because we just came upon them, but we have a TPI, Traumatic Brain Injury Center here in Toledo, and they were introduced to a team where there's OOD and there's a school system and others at the table, but realizing that might be the kind of some of the supports we need to support that youth entering their career goal as an adult and things like that. So it's really great to see new ideas come, because I feel like before maybe everyone stuck to the list or what was on the list, but now they're saying, okay, they're not in our group, but do we have someone like that in our area? And it's being sought out and then brought into the group. And I will say it's a true collaboration. We have probably a record number of youth entering summer work experience. We also we're fortunate to have the Youth Leadership Forum happening in the Toledo area, funded or supported by the Ability Center, who's a part of the multi-agency planning committee. And so we do have, because of the foundation you, Sarah, and Kelly first started, it's just growing. And I like I said, no one's operating in silos anymore, and the supports are very, very individualized for each youth.
Thank you so much. Just to kind of share, I know one of the things that I'm asked sometimes is, so what did your kind of project did your group come together and do? And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things we have accomplished as a group, but truly our collaboration, that's the goal. It's an ongoing kind of process and partnership. And I'm so grateful that we've been able to come together and do that and kind of learn and grow from each other. Our group, after, Jeff and I, we shared a little bit at the beginning that we kind of started with just getting to know each other, and kind of how really share how all of our work really does come together. And one of the things I'll share is actually some visuals of some planning things we did together that kind of show how our collaborations come together, that it's agency neutral, outcome focused, and person centered, and that we're really there to all wrap around that person, and how great it is when we can all come together and make sure that even though we all have our own plans, that what's really most important to that person is captured in every plan and every service. The other thing we did is that we did a survey out to our community. We realized a lot of teachers or an SSA didn't always know what does everybody do or how to even make a referral. So we did create a transition brochure, just talking a little bit about what's available there. A very cool thing is Toledo Public Schools made sure that was sent to every transition age student. And we saw that just people, just making sure they had the information and that they knew, parents, right at the beginning of that process, how to get connected. We saw a lot of parents just saying, can you just tell me a little bit more about what you do and what's available? We've also done a lot of presentations. I know everybody here, we've gone out. Jeannette and I had a little road show for a little bit and just talked about how we can work together. And sometimes, well, is that an OOD referral or is that a SSA referral? And being able to educate on we all have a piece and that how we all really work together. It doesn't have to be, it's not like a one wrong door. And then the other thing we've done is we created some materials that could be passed out directly at schools, transition fairs. In addition to the brochure, we did like pencils and water bottles, um, all different types of things. A magnet, which just had everybody's phone number on there, so parents could just throw it on the fridge. And those were ideas we actually got from other MAP groups across the state. And our last thing we created was just a getting ready for graduation guide that was not agency specific. It was agency neutral that just kind of guided people through that process about what kinds of questions to start asking at 14. And not just about employment in school, but about independent living, about transportation, and all things that can help are important to help someone be independent in their community and have a future that's meaningful to them. So I think the last question I have is for the group is what is your hope for the future? I mean, we're at this pivotal time. We were talking about it before where, we've accomplished a lot, but we've been through a tough time through the pandemic. It's been a very challenging time for students, for teachers, for service providers. So can you just share a little bit about what would be your hope for how we work together in the future, but also our hope for students?
I think my hope for the future as it pertains to the multi-agency planning committee is I would love to see it to continue to grow. Even though I personally am not on it anymore, my counselor is. She always brings back very useful information to share with the office and the counselors that serve Lucas County. She's the person I can say, I don't know, but go ask Jessica. She might have a connection. Like that's you can't ever underestimate the value of that type of kind of resource. My hope for the future for that planning committee, and I know under Kelly's kind of oversight, this will definitely happen. We are in a time when diversity, equity, and inclusion is, in the forefront as it should be. And I would love to see, other agencies or even groups or clubs begin to join the multi-agency planning committee so that they can learn more about what we can do for them and what they can do for us, and how we can all together serve individuals. There's a lot of times, I know my counselors, because when you're working with students, it shouldn't be all about school and it shouldn't be all about work. There's a whole life out there, and sometimes they're struggling, and sometimes they're doing well, but they just are like they need a hobby, they need a conduit, they need something. Maybe they don't want to go to school after work, or go to work after school, but they want to do something or they need to do something. Volunteer experiences and maybe connecting. If you're a student who is, for instance, kind of walking through that world of transitioning, as with your identity, being able to connect and talk to individuals who have either gone through the same thing or are going through the same thing. Individuals who are kind of more in that, inner city, and, I hate to say it, but when you're sitting here and you're a white woman trying to explain the world around to an African American female, that world is sometimes not always the same when you're 15 or 16 and coming from sort of different backgrounds. So being able to have peer mentorship or have groups that we can connect these students with, ultimately in the end, that just makes their ability to connect in school better. That makes their ability to connect in the world of work better. When sort of these ancillary needs are being met. So I think we're all looking to do that. I think we're all looking to be more inclusive. We're all sort of looking around us to say, what can I have brought to the table that will help this student? And it doesn't necessarily have to be within my wheelhouse or meet the needs of my agency. And it shouldn't, and it can't be all about that. We work in this world of employment, and we want to move them in that direction. Jeff works in sort of that world of school and work and wants to make sure they're excelling in that. But those are just two parts of a very big world. So.
Wow, thank you. Jeff, do you mind just sharing some of your thoughts?
Yeah, to piggyback on what Jeannette said, I think about just consistently and constantly expanding our universe and talking to new people. I know every year, I can't speak for other districts, but every year TPS hires around 100 new special ed teachers that are just coming into the field that are vaguely aware you all exist. And so it's to be able to have conversations over and over and over. It's like Groundhog Day for us. Every year we start the conversation fresh and new with people that sort of know we're here, but need help. And it's not just teachers. There are new service and support people. There are new counselors, all that. So it's just consistently, day after day, getting the message out that we're here, we're able. Everybody would love to work with your kids. We all have different perspectives and we all have different expertise, but together we make a pretty doggone good team.
Thank you so much. Kelly.
Well, I do hopefully plan to include opportunities where we could look at DEI for youth. It's absolutely essential, and I agree with everything Jeannette had said. We're only as good as our members in the collaboration. So really looking at that membership and expanding upon it. Also, and others in Ohio might be watching this and say, oh, well, they're urban, they're in Toledo, we actually have a lot of rural areas in Lucas County that it is also my hope that we expand our scope and reach those school districts who maybe have little numbers, but yet they can make such a big impact in those students' lives as well. And so that is my desire, is that no matter where the student goes in Lucas County, each of their teachers that they encounter in high school will have an opportunity to know about MAPS and have the opportunity to have the dialogue and figure out the support that best meets their needs. And, I always used to tell my students when I used to teach, what happens at home affects work. And so like Jeannette had said, really helping them find their whole life, not just their work life, not just their home life. How do they contribute to their community? What do they engage in the community? And really creating that lifestyle that they have and they're happy with as they become adults.
Awesome. Thank you. Just to share, piggyback of what you guys have said too, but I think there was a time, when we were right kind of smack in the middle of it, where I heard a lot of parents and kids saying, what's the point? What's the point of planning for my future? And it was all the negative messages. It was such a stressful time. And I feel, knowing that we've got such great people in our field that are saying, we're here. There is something to look forward to. Let's start digging in. Let's have these conversations, and let's really approach this from strength and from hope, and not just connecting with our students, but also connecting with families. I'm excited, and I'm very grateful to you all for all the work that you do and to continue this process. So thank you guys so much for sharing all of your experiences and your thoughts today, and keep doing the great work. Thank you so much.